Hey there, welcome back to another episode of Karishma Connect, the first time in 2024. Happy New Year once again to you and your families. I hope you had a lovely time together. On this episode, I've got Sukhada Chaudhary, Vice President of Community at Rang. Now, she's a storyteller, advertising comms professional who chose to pursue purpose with Rang, which is a social investing platform. She tells me why. She tells me what made her believe in the platform, how she communicates for good, and what is social investing, why it could be the next big thing that you need to look out for. Until the next one, stay tuned, go check out the episode. I'll be back soonest with yet another one. This is Karishma, signing off. Thank you so much, Sukhada, for joining me on this episode of Karishma Connect. I can't wait to know more about Rang De because I find it very interesting that somebody has come up with this kind of a concept, and I would love to get to know more. But before I get into any story on Karishma Connect, I ask the person, tell me about the journey till to where you are today, and what makes it so special to be here.
Thank you. Thanks, Karishma, for having me. And it's lovely to be on this platform to talk more about Rang De, our journey, my journey. So I'll start with my journey. I'm a advertising strategy postgrad from MICA and worked in advertising for a little bit. I was always obsessed with, creativity, ads, comms. And after a short stint in advertising, set up my own thing in my hometown, Nagpur, and I was consulting for a lot of startups, NGOs, and as it happened, I started getting a lot of clients in the impact space. And I figured that was a real core need because a lot of these organizations are doing such amazing work, but they don't have comms people to really amplify their work, to showcase it to the world. So that happened for I think 4 or 5 years. I was freelancing, being a consultant to these startups and NGOs. And then I found an opportunity at Rangde. They were looking for a community manager. But when I joined, it turned out to be a much more expansive role where I took care of com, social media, and community. And then, of course, it'll be 2 years in February. It's been a wonderful ride, championing social investing in front of so many people on as many platforms as we can. So yeah, that's a little bit about my journey.
That's very interesting, and there's so much that I'd like to unfold there, but I'll begin with this. I will go back to you being a comms professional. I think what led you to pursuing purpose over, the trivia of things that comms and media and everything offers? What led you to that purpose, and then what have been the rewards so far of pursuing that journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think my advertising stint was enough to disillusion me. So I quit advertising in just more than a year, and I slowly realized that the brightest minds can do a lot more rather than sell products and just spread consumerism. And for me, knowing that I come from a privileged background, I knew that I could make some trade-offs, try to use my skills in a certain way, and as you said, like purpose-led brands or purpose-led communities. And so I just gave it a go. I thought, at the end of the day, if that work gives you satisfaction and you can afford to do it in every way, so why not? And I think the learnings or the takeaways from doing impact led, purpose led work has been a lot of satisfaction, a lot of work satisfaction. And you get to meet some lovely people because there's nobody here who's here for the rat race. They've all intentionally opted out of a very cutthroat environment, amazingly talented people who just want to do good. So it's lovely being in that atmosphere full of people who want to make a difference.
If I may ask you, because you have been in touch with that bunch of people and the listeners might not have, what have you learned about the concept of what we call good in the sense? What do you think redefines that?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. So I think you need to redefine good very quickly once you make a profession out of working in the space of good. Because when you enter it, you're so idealistic, right? I want to change the world. I want to do this. I want to do that. And the first learning sort of this space is there are so many moving parts, and you're just like one small cog, and you have such limited influence on the world. So I think then good quickly, narrows down to, okay, this is what we as an organization or me as a person can do. So let's try our best that in the whole scheme of things, there are so many things out of your control. Let's try to maximize our impact in this narrow sphere that we can.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And then tell me about Rang Day and how Rang Day is doing that.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So Rangde is a RBI regulated peer-to-peer social investing platform. So the way Rangde is doing this is, the biggest problem we're trying to solve is millions of people in India are excluded from formal credit systems. So
Yeah.
we're talking about farmers, we're talking about rural entrepreneurs, we're talking about artisans. What happens is these people, even for a smallish amount of 5,000, 10,000 rupees, if they go to a bank, they will be rejected
Mm,
because A, they don't have collateral, B, they don't have a credit score, and three, they often don't have enough land.
mm,
So they don't have credit histories to show. So what happens is they get rejected and they go to private money lenders and then borrow these amounts at rates as high as 30 to 40% per annum.
mm,
And then they get trapped in these vicious credit cycles, and we've had so many unfortunate cases of people giving up their lives, people being shamed,
yeah.
people living in misery. So the way Rangde is trying to do this is bring the peer-to-peer lending model where people like you and me, you can start as low as 100 rupees.
Mm,
You can lend to these farmers, rural entrepreneurs, and artisans. We call it social investing. It's actually investing in a person.
yeah.
And then this person at a very low interest rate of 4 to 8% per annum, they repay you back that amount. So what we're doing is we're not only giving them a chance at escaping poverty,
Mm,
but we're also giving them the dignity of borrowing, at their terms.
mm.
So we're actually doing financial inclusion and enabling livelihoods at the same time.
Tell me, why is that important for somebody sitting in the city with all their comforts to take notice of? Because I think that's where any social platform tends to face the brunt of people being very delusional about their backgrounds. So where do you think they need to take notice of something like that? Why is it so important?
I think because maximum of our country today still lives outside the metro areas. A lot of a big bunch of our population actually lives in our villages still, and this empathy gap, right, is real. Like because we in the cities we earn 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 a month, we have failed to even imagine a world where someone will struggle for 5,000 6,000 rupees, and that makes such a big difference for them. So 5,000, 6,000 can mean that this year they might be able to buy seeds, they might be able to buy a goat for their goat rearing, they might be able to construct a fish pond for the farm pond for their fund for their farm. So I think it's really necessary so that A, we're aware of our privilege and we can use it to do good, but two, because there's a real India out there that we hope we don't lose touch with.
Yeah, yeah, very true. And then, I was talking to somebody who's also he's into finance education just the last
Yeah.
week. It was a platform here in the UAE. And I asked the same thing that, today we are faced with such diversified financial models, and there's so much of diversification happening in the space of investments. Within those scheme of things, why do you think it is important to embrace social investing, and how can the wider groups or the wider authorities kind of make the scenario better?
Yeah. So here is where I would like to add one more layer to that question. So a lot of us really want to do good with the money that we have, and a lot of us want that money to have some impact, and that impact can be multifold. It can be putting it back into our country, creating days of livelihood, or having a real change in society through that invested money, right? And a lot of us also don't want to do charity or donation because there you can't trace what happens to the money. Did I create any impact? And it's all very obscure and opaque. Where I think social investing falls into this whole paradigm of different financial investment options is that it's you're going to get repaid with interest from this borrower, but two, that it's going to create tremendous ground level impact. So we have a metric on the platform where we share with our investors that, hey, this is the number of lives you've impacted
Mm.
through your investment. So it's not just the borrower, it's the borrower and their family, right? In so many cases, it's a lot of other things. We also tell them these are the number of credit histories you have helped create. So these are so many first time borrowers that, because of you, now they have a credit history. They can go to any bank and they can discuss that, okay, here's my credit history. I need a loan. So I think this kind of impact. And another thing is, unlike a lot of options out there, this is a self multiplying investment. So it comes back to you with interest. And because it works so well, you're really motivated to keep that money in the system and keep investing it in more individuals. So I think there are two, three different aspects that really make this different from traditional investing.
And do you have any peculiar story that you would like to share about somebody who really had, whose life really got transformed through the platform? Is there any anecdote as such?
Yeah, so there is a borrower from Uttar Pradesh, and she availed of a Rangde loan. So she was on the Rangde platform to get credit to buy a e-auto rickshaw,
Okay.
right? And imagine a woman in Uttar Pradesh, of all places, and she wants to buy an e-auto rickshaw. So a little backstory: this woman was always interested in riding bikes, but because she was a woman, she was discouraged. And when she had a family of her own and they needed more money, so she said, "Why can't I drive a e-auto rickshaw?"
Huh.
So a lot of Rangde social investors invested in her. She got to buy her e-auto rickshaw, and she now earns enough not just to maintain that e-auto rickshaw but to also charge it in her own house. So earlier she used to go to some place to charge that e-auto rickshaw and be dependent on so many things, but now she's earning well. She can charge that e-auto rickshaw at her own house. She's a role model. She's like a local celebrity because she took that first step, and it's credit really transforms a lot of lives on the grassroots.
Yeah. And how does the platform work, Sukhada? How do people access it? People who are
Yeah.
looking to engage with it. Take me through
Yeah,
that.
so what we've done is we've made it very, very easy for someone to access it. You can either download the Rangde app, or you can go to the platform, which is rangde.in. You can choose which farmer, entrepreneur, artisan you want to invest in, and you can choose any amount starting from rupees 100. So we want everybody to try it, so we've kept it super low. The entry amount is 100 rupees, and then you just do a quick KYC, and then we disburse your invested amount to the borrower. And according to the terms that are mentioned on the profile, so it may be 6%, it may be 8%, the tenure can be 6 months. We usually cap it at 12 months. Every month you get repaid with interest. So it's split into monthly paybacks, and everything is available on your dashboard. So you can see whose repayment is upcoming and where your money is gone. And you can even turn on this thing we call auto reinvest. So whatever you get back, you can set some parameters that, hey, I only want to invest in women in Uttar Pradesh, right? So it will keep going to similar profiles in the system.
So you can customize it. You can customize.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's nice. I mean, the wonders of technology. I think technology also works very well in making these things possible. I think it's really been a. Tell me from your journey so far, and this is perhaps my last question to you, that for anybody who is wanting, for a young aspiring person who's wanting to go out there and do good, what do you think are some things to keep in mind from a social investing perspective for them? Like tips for budding social investing entrepreneurs?
Social investing entrepreneurs. So you mean like people who want to do something similar to Rangde?
Yeah.
Okay. So I would say have a great way of selecting borrower profiles. So the community connect is very, very important. So what we do at Rangde is, because we can't be in 14 states, we're a smallish team. We work with FPOs, farmer producer organizations, self-help groups, and NGOs who have been working with specific farmer, entrepreneur, artisan communities for a while. And then we partner with them. They are called our impact partners. And they tell us that, okay, hey, these are 50 villagers in this community, and they really need credit for their farming, for example. So then we partner with these organizations, and they help us curate the right profiles for the platform. So what happens is a double check. We not only do a credibility check of the organization, but we also do all the due diligence on the individual profile. So number one tip would be have a foolproof system of not only selecting but onboarding borrower profiles. Number two, and this is something that's really worked well for us at Rangde, is have a human first approach. It's very, very easy for this whole thing to become so transactional, right? That, okay, X farmer needs ABC, so let me just give 500 rupees to X, right? But what we do is, in all our in all our borrower profiles, right, you'll see smiling faces. You will see a small clip of that person speaking in their own native language as to why they need 20,000 rupees, 50,000 rupees. You'll see one photograph of them in their livelihood activity, for example. So we truly believe that this is a human to human connect. Unless you know that there's a human being at the end of that transaction, you will not do it for the right reasons. So number two is human led approach, super important. And number three, select a stellar team. That team needs to be, your team needs to be in this not to earn money, but actually work so well that a byproduct is that you have a great enterprise at the end of the day. So I would say those are my three takeaways
I think
for
your
people.
last one is so very important because most of the time that's what gets in the way of everything, right? The agenda of why you are in it. I think that's something very. I want to go back to your comms experience before I, finish things up, and that is communicating something like that. You really need to exactly tying back to your last point where you're not looking at the money factor.
Yeah.
There must be some chat. I don't know if my question would come across directly to you, but what I'm trying to ask is that there are challenges of communicating something like that in a way that you are not being, and I say this because I myself am into comms, and there is a huge challenge of communicating something to do with, what we call CSR or anything that is like a social service responsibility.
Yeah.
How do you navigate that? There are challenges and opportunities attached to it. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, and that's a fantastic question because we struggle so much with it because we do not want this to come across as a sob story or, as a desperate appeal for credit. So what we've done is, just base it on two or three touchstones of our communication strategy. One is, of course, empathy. So all our communication has that angle of empathy that, try to instill that or evoke that empathy in the reader, in the end consumer of this communication, that, hey, okay, this was something I didn't know. And, now I know something about the condition of people who live in India outside the cities, right? Or empathy in terms of, how we approach, say, showcasing a borrower's life, right? Like I said, right? Happy photos, optimistic, looking forward. So empathy is number one. Number two is curation. So I think this is something a lot of comms people learn very late in life, and even I've learned quite late in life, that making cool social media graphics is one thing, but do you have the curation to tie interesting things in your content strategy? Right? Like, what do you want to highlight? Is there a fantastic data point you can highlight? Is there an article you can share? Is there a video you can create? Is there a podcast you can get onto? Right? How can you get in interesting elements and curate your comms so that people genuinely look forward to? So it may be your blogs, it may be your social media, it can be even, emailers. So we have something called the Rangde Quickly. It goes out to all our active social investors, and it's written by our co-founder every week, right?
Yeah.
So something small, something personalized, something that actually says that, yes, a human being actually sat down and wrote this for you. So, stuff like that. And I would say number three is storytelling. Uh, Storytelling is a much abused word, I'm aware, but I think in this space of of impact, development. I think the way I see storytelling is, how do you make someone care about what you're doing? And how do you find those angles where this person will say, oh, interesting, or oh, I didn't know this, or oh, I want to know more. So
Mhm.
I think these two, three things, empathy, curation, and storytelling, I think these three things for sure.
Agree with all of them. I think I resonate. And like you said, curation is a very important point. And of course, storytelling is timeless. I think it just
Yes.
passes. My last question to you is, Sukhada, tell me what's next in store for Rangde? What are you most looking forward to?
Oh yeah, so we at Rangde we want to reach 1 million social investors, and we are really looking forward to when social investing becomes a common term, right? Like you ask people, do you do mutual funds and FDs, and we want people to know about and actually practice social investing as just another thing, right? And of course, another thing that we want to do is reach every state in India, reach new geographies. Currently, we are present in 16 Indian states. So we'd love to get into more geographies. We know we're just scratching the surface. The need is so huge. So it's a clever balance between demand and supply. So we're hoping that we can do both of these in the coming few years.
And is it only open to people in India or is it also open to people who are outside? And I ask that because the podcast reaches a global audience. So that's why I'm
Yes.
asking.
And thank you for bringing that up because I had missed it. It is open to NRIs as well as OCI card holders. You can use the platform. It's just, again, a quick KYC and you'll be able to invest.
Perfect. I am
Yes.
so happy to have, spoken to you about this. It's a brilliant, and I have got to actually learn so much. Thank you for that. And thank you so much once again for joining me. More power to you and Rangde. And I look forward to seeing whatever milestones unfold for you all.
Thank you so much, Karishma, and really love all the work you've been doing and the curation you've been doing yourself. And all the best to you as well and your podcast.
Thank you so much.